Welcome to the first Presidential Dialogue Series of 2023. This year's focus is on reimagining communities of change. Thought leaders in business, politics, and journalism are exploring the tools and values we need to transform our communities and advance a shared sense of the public good. Throughout the series, we will examine how some of the instability created by crisis can also create space for productive, progressive transformation. In such spaces, we will have to position ourselves as agents of such change. I'm thrilled to have Seth Goldman here as our guest. He is a leader in both business and sustainable food production and has drawn many business students to his career path. I'm going to ask actually a current MC student, Madeline Hishme, to introduce him. Ms. Hishme is a Macklin Business Institute student who is graduating in May with her associate's degree in business. Madeline is the marketing lead for our student-run business on campus, a presentation team member for Enactus, and a grant advisor for the Carl M. Freeman Foundation. She hopes to transfer to the University of Maryland in the Smith School of Business next fall, but has also been accepted to Pepperdine University in California. So, sounds like she has a few options. So I will invite now Madeline up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. As you may know, Seth Goldman is a local entrepreneur who is first known for his creation of Honest Tea, a highly successful brand of tea which was sold to CocaCola. Mr. Goldman is now the co-founder and chief change agent of Eat the Change, which produces organic plant-based snacks, which you may have tasted this morning. He is also the co-founder of Plant Burger and chair of the board of Beyond Meat. Mr. Goldman recently launched his latest tea line by combining justice with tea to create Just Iced Tea, which you may have just sampled. Mr. Goldman has been a leader in democratizing organic food and building businesses based on fair trade practices. He has merged his passion for social justice with healthy, profitable products. Mr. Goldman and his wife, Julie Farkas, who is here today, have also launched ETC Impact, which is donating $1.25 million over the next 3 years to nonprofit organizations that educate and inspire consumers to make climate-conscious choices with their diets. Mr. Goldman is a graduate of Harvard College, the Yale School of Management, and is Henry Crown Fellow of the Aspen Institute. He has been widely recognized for his entrepreneurial impact, named Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year in Greater Washington, the Beverage Industry Magazine Executive of the Year, and the Partnership for Healthy America's CEO of the Year. We are thrilled to welcome Seth Goldman to Dr. Williams' Presidential Dialogue Series.
Well, thank you again so very much for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I think take an opportunity right now to kind of to level set, because you know the unique perspective that you bring. Would like to just start off with would just please talk a little bit about what certified organic and certified fair trade mean, and so that we're all on the same page. And why are these concepts, why are these so important to you?
Yeah, well, it's very appropriate we chose the word just ice or justice as the foundation of our name, because to me this is about having a just and fair relationship with the earth. We should not be taking more or extracting more from the earth than we're giving back to it. And so organic is a system that uses no synthetic chemical pesticides or fertilizers, and so it regenerates as we harvest. We're regenerating and nutrifying the earth, the planet. So that's the environmental part of it. And then fair trade is a certified way to treat workers. So what it means is that first of all, there's no child labor, no prison labor. All of the wages are reviewed and deemed fair by the International Labor Organization. And then a portion of the sales, every time we buy a pound of tea leaves or a gallon of agave or even honey, a portion of the sales goes back to the workers for them to invest in the way that they think is appropriate. So for us, that also is a just way to treat people involved in the supply chain. And so one of the magical things about tea in particular is that we can sell, what really is some of the world's best quality tea, and it's still only, even with all the things we invest in the planet and in the community, it's still pennies a bottle for the tea. So our point of view is we should be making sure we are treating every stakeholder along the way as ethically as we can.
Wow, that is fantastic. There's so much there. I feel like I can just keep asking questions about that was the initial question. When you talk about certifications like international organizations, and as you know, we have a lot of international students here at Montgomery College. So could you share, just probe that a little bit more? Which countries do you source from, and what really provoked your interest in labor conditions and profit and interconnectivity around the world?
Sure. Well, it really starts with the fact that tea is the world's second most popular beverage, second only to water.
Really?
So tea is, every culture around the country has some kind of a tea they use. Now, it may not always be the same plant, but whether it's some kind of a brewed botanical is connected to every culture. And it turns out that tea leaves, the kind we use, are grown in India, China, and then we just brought on a new source in Mozambique, which I'm extremely excited about. We'll talk more about that. Because all tea leaf really needs is good, rich soil, a lot of moisture, and then often, high altitude. But it can be grown any place like that. It can't really be grown in the United States, by the way. So by definition, we're sourcing from around the world. And then our sweetener, we use agave, which is grown in Mexico. We use organic honey, which is grown in Brazil. And so each of those, with organic, there's a lot of rules about how it has to be grown. And so, for example, organic honey can't have a pollution source within 3 miles of where the bees are. And so in the United States, it's actually, I think it's almost impossible to grow organic honey in the United States because there's pollution. Even a golf course counts as if they're using, pesticides on the 9th green, then that's not a source. So for us, we actually go to the rainforest in Brazil and other parts where there's enough forest. So this is actually a way to also protect these natural ecosystems, right? There's commerce there, but it's not. It doesn't rely on development to protect these ecosystems. And so it's really given us and my whole family an amazing opportunity to connect to cultures around the world. And we always think about when we bring these tea that we're bringing a drink and it has to quench someone's thirst, but we also think about it's sharing. Sharing a part of the world with people. And so the green teas from China or Mozambique, connect people to that source. And sometimes they don't know it, and that's okay, but we love it when we can connect them to the source too.
That is just so many different, kind of pieces of connectivity. Right. So many different kind of parameters and guidelines and just so much to know what.
Well, and that's what food is, right? I mean, what's so interesting about food is it is what we become, right? What we take in is what becomes, and it's the same in the way we impact the planet, because everything we eat comes from the planet. And so every time we eat, we have this opportunity to have an impact on what happens to the planet. And so this phrase we've chosen, eat the change, it's our mindset. It is, but we also want the mindset that we want our consumers to embrace as well, that when you eat, it is how you're changing yourself, but it's also how you're changing the planet.
And if we continue to consume without giving back, then what happens, right? We can all do the math. So speaking of that, would you please share a bit about the challenges that you've encountered in maintaining some of the practices you mentioned, fair trade and sustainability throughout your career, and then I'll ask you a follow-up. Start with those.
Well, so certainly the approach we take, there's more cost to it, right? When you are in fair trade, you are giving money back to this community, and so it's cheaper to not do that. When you invest in organic, we believe over the long term organic makes sense, but in the short term, it's harder for farmers to go organic because they're used to a system that relies on these chemical pesticides. And so rather than having to worry about how to control or interact with whether it's pests or bugs or even fungus, just to throw chemicals at it is a short, cheaper solution. And so there's naturally in the marketplace, lower price is one aspect of what makes something appealing. And so our job is to help consumers understand why it may make sense to spend a little more. Of course, we work hard to keep our prices low because Maddie talked about democratizing. That's important for us. We want to make sure we can make our products accessible. And part of that means not being too high priced, but when it is a little higher price, we want people to understand what is the value they're getting in exchange for that.
And how did the pandemic change any of or all of that?
Well, so with Honest Tea, in a sense, Honest Tea was a victim of the pandemic. So what happened is, we sold Honest Tea to Coca-Cola in 2011. I stayed on through 2019, I left at the end of 2019 to pursue other things. And then what happened was, then the pandemic started shortly after that. Coca-Cola ran into a lot of supply chain issues. So I would go to the store and I only see a few varieties of Honest Tea when there used to be 8 or 10. And then they also ran into other supply chain challenges. So I think Honest Tea got neglected. Coming out of the pandemic, they realized that they needed to shore up the existing business, which in most cases meant, fizzy things in cans. And so when they decided we have to cut some things, they decided they were going to cut Honest Tea. And so, obviously, we were heartbroken when we got this news. This was in May, I remember the date, May 23rd of last year. Oh, wow. I had a call with Coca-Cola senior management. They said, we're going to be cutting Honest Tea. It was, they gave me the courtesy of telling me. But it was, I've described it as a gut punch. I mean, that all, not just me, but my wife and our sons and all the employees. I mean, literally by that point, thousands of people had built Honest Tea. It was something we really cared about. And when we heard it was being discontinued, there was this just shock and really sadness. And then 10 days later, we decided to take action. but it was a sad development for sure.
That's let's look at the flip side of that. We talked about some of the challenges that came from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Has it made anything easier? Has it made a kind of a smoother glide path for anything that you're doing in terms of your philosophical and practical approach to?
I think for me, it sharpened my sense of what matters and what I'm going to be doing, what I choose to do. I had gotten, after I left Honest Tea, there was this moment where I was trying to think about, well, should I go into politics or do something else? And especially after, Coca-Cola discontinued Honest Tea, I just said, this cause, this idea of trying to connect values and ethics to business is my cause. This is, and it's not going to succeed on its own. Like, losing Honest Tea was a setback for this kind of movement because it helped, we, in one sense, when we sold to Coca-Cola, we thought, here's a big company adopting, we were the first organic and first fair trade brand inside of the world's largest beverage company. So that was a huge milestone. But then having it discontinued could be a big setback. And in fact, one of our tea suppliers said, we'd hate to think this was a failed experiment. And I thought, as long as I'm still breathing, this will not be a failed experiment. We're determined to prove this can work. This must work. Really, I'm certainly not the only person doing it, but if we want to make capitalism viable, if we want to make society viable, we have to find a way for business to operate with a mindset that takes into account other stakeholders besides just shareholders. Wow. And so for me, this is the work that I've dedicated to. And I will say, as while we were so upset with Honest Tea discontinued at first, we now realize this is a gift to be able to go back and reignite this category, to go back into business. And even just as a business itself, it's a gift because we have a snack business and we're very proud of it, but we're already, 95% of our sales now are tea. And we are now, so we've been in the tea business for 6 months, but this month our sales will be where Honest, on a monthly basis, where Honest Tea was in its 8th year. So that's an incredible, turbo. Thank you. As an entrepreneur, that's just an amazing business opportunity. I mean, we're so gratified because this, our sourcing is even more sophisticated. The relationships we're developing with our suppliers, but as a straight business opportunity, that's just a gift to be able to have that in it. And of course, it shows that the consumers, it means something to the consumer, right. It means something to the retailer, and it certainly means something to the supply chain. Wow. So I'm sorry to keep going. No, the other moment thing that it's really sharpened for me is karma. That when we got this news, we were so upset about Honest Tea being discontinued, and that week I was just flooded with outreach from not just former employees, but suppliers. people who liked working with us before who wanted to work with us again. And we've kind of brought the band back together. And that's one reason we've been able to move so quickly. I mean, as I said, I got the news in May 23rd. We decided on June 6th that we were going to launch Just Iced Tea. And by September 6th, 90 days later, we were in the market, which is super fast. And the only reason that we were able to do that was because all of those partners came right back out. And so that's, to me, another benefit of that whole approach. It shows that the relationships matter and the values matter, and all the people who came together valued that.
So thank you. I just hear so much of passion, speed, agility, connecting values and ethics to business, fair trade, beyond stakeholder, shareholder profits.
Yeah.
So much there. And we have, students in the audience and people who are watching. So along those lines, what skills do you think young entrepreneurs can develop while in school? You've mentioned, I think, some of these. What advice do you have? And along those lines, what advice do you have for balancing school, families, work, and passion?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and it's something every student here has the chance to practice right now. And certainly, the one skill I think I have developed more than any other is multitasking. It sounds funny. Well, is that a skill? But actually, it really is, because that's what an entrepreneur has to do. And just as I know so many of the students here have responsibilities in their family. They have jobs they have to do. They have classes they have to do. They may have activities they have to do. Being able to manage all that is what an entrepreneur does, right? So I had a meeting this morning on operations, and we're talking about production. But then I was meeting with marketing to talk about how we're going to handle this campaign. And then, tomorrow I leave for New York for a whole week of sales activity. So you have to be able to handle multiple tasks at once. And you have to be able to compartmentalize. You have to be able to say, okay, now if I'm thinking about marketing, I've got to put all of my focus on that. And then I got to be able to put that down and have to go talk about, well, what's going to happen with our bottle caps, and think about production and operations. And just as you have a job to do, if you have a job, you've got to do your job. You really can't study you can't study well if you're supposed to be doing work at another thing. And so that ability, especially in today, what I've often said with social media is now you're like multi-thinking segments all the time, but you have to be able to focus and address a task, and then be able to switch gears and address another task as well.
So multitasking, being able to focus, also switch quickly.
Yes.
So what would you say in terms of which of those skills, or a specific skill, do you reflect back and I really learned this from kind of formal education, or I learned this from kind of being out there, or it's kind of amalgamation, what?
Yeah, it's very funny, because as you heard, I went to some very good colleges, in my education, but so much of what I've learned and been able to apply is from life experience. And so I always say that I learned so much coaching my youngest son's 8-year-old baseball team. Now, I didn't play baseball at all growing up, but he made the travel team, and because I'd been around the baseball fields, I was asked to be the head coach of his 8 and under travel team. And I thought, boy, that's an unusual assignment. I know how baseball's played, but I literally, and but what happened was that summer we had a great little group of kids, and they went undefeated. And yes, they were good players, but a lot of what it was giving these 8-year-olds, that's a challenging, can be a challenging group of kids, just able to think and support each other, to understand the roles they had and how to interact with each other, and how to come back from disappointment and sort of be able to sort of get settled and act. So a lot of the things I've learned are from life experience, and been able to apply them to work as well.
That's great. And I will share, just as a personal note, Seth, I think I'm going to be an assistant coach for a 5-year-old
There you go.
So thank you for giving me hope that I didn't think I would receive during this conversation. I really appreciate that. I'm inspired. So when we think, I do hear a kind of a mix. I've gone to very good schools and obviously learning there, and then combining that with what you're learning experientially in kind of the field in business and industry. There's
a difference between knowledge and wisdom. So school, you get a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
And then when it's really impactful is when you can connect it to wisdom. And so you can think about how to apply it in a way that is relevant, makes sense, and also that you can share it with people in a way that's digestible for them too.
Right. So that critical foundation and then leading to the very important, thank you for sharing that. Along those lines and just the kind of comprehensive nature, would you please touch on the importance for a few moments of a strong partner and a work-life balance? You just mentioned being a baseball coach. You mentioned just multitasking, but getting compartmentalizing, but needing to stay specific, right? Going from production to something else. But I know, and I've met you and had a wonderful time getting to know you over the past few years. I've also met Julie and had a wonderful time getting to know her. I know your wife has been a huge partner in several ways in this work. So what would you share about just the necessity of having a strong partner? Yeah,
it's critical. Every part of everything I've done, really, Julie has been a part of, not just as a thought partner, but as a sort of spiritual, moral partner. Helped. We've had, it's nice to be up here and to talk about the success. There's been a lot of disappointments, right? A lot of setbacks and a lot of challenging times, and it's great when you can feel success and feel to share that. But it's even more important when you feel like how are we going to meet payroll, or are we going to go out of business? And someone who believes in you, somebody who shares your values and knows that whether this succeeds or not, they're going to be with you. And so I think that is, of all the, I'd say fortune or places I've been fortunate, having a partner who believes in me as much as I believe in her has just been invaluable. And so, yes, Honest Tea, when I sort of came home and said, I think I'm going to do this, she was like the first one, let's do it, we're in. And she was the one who found out about Beyond Meat. We'd been vegetarian for several years at the time, and this was in 2012, and she read this article and said, you need to help these people find a way to scale that business. And so I sent an email out there. And so it's just been it's really been the joy of my life to have somebody who's such a key partner.
That's great. I think that deserves a round of applause. I've heard you talk about this being a mission-driven entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right, and you've talked several times responses to questions about your values, and I kind of see them in the answers. And so how, just a little bit more about how your values influence decisions you've made, specifically in a business or your product choices, right?
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, like you said, you mentioned, there are people who are concerned about profits, right?
Yeah.
There's, the impact on the community, both locally and globally. So how did you come to the point of these are the values that you're going to hold true to, and kind of do you have lines that you just don't cross?
Sure. Well, so first of all, I want to make sure I don't want to make it sound like I don't pay attention to shareholders, because
no,
you didn't imply that, but
Okay.
So when I mentioned all the folks who came back to help build Just Iced Tea,
yes,
there were also tons of Honest Tea investors who said, "Hey, we'd love to go around again with you." So that was, I think, showing we do pay attention to them, and they had a great experience both financially and sort of ethically with Honest Tea. And so for me, it's really pretty simple. It's what I believe in, and I'm not going to do something I don't believe in. I just don't. And even going back to my talk about a partner. If one thing, if I sort of see, well, maybe this makes sense. If Julie says that doesn't make sense, there's been multiple times, especially in our conversations with CocaCola, where there were some questionable decisions, and I'd talk to Julie, and then I'd come back and say, there's no question about what we need to do here. So it really is just it's a belief system. Obviously, I believe that it's important, not just for my own health, that I don't want to sell anything that's not healthy for anybody else. And that's a big gap. Because you think about some of these other big food companies, their core product, if it's not healthy, it's like, how do you sell that? And so that for me is a core one, but also environmentally. It's got to be something I can believe makes sense environmentally. And there's an interesting question we come up across with packaging, right? Because even though the tea is sourced organically and it's fair trade, It isn't a package that's a single-use package. It's recyclable, but there's a environmental concern. So I want to do as best I can with the package, but to me the answer isn't, well, if I'm worried about the environmental impact, then I shouldn't be selling anything in a package, because then I'm not making any kind of impact. So that's, I'd say, where there's some accommodation. But it really is, I have to be able to not just look myself and my wife in the eye, I have to look my employees in the eye, and our customers.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think oftentimes, we look at our personal values and ethics, and then, what we're doing professionally, and sometimes there's, we want there to be an alignment. I think we feel better, kind of in our soul when there's that sort of alignment. I feel like that's what I'm hearing from you. It's that alignment, just.
And I would say, on the one hand, maybe I'm spoiled. I can feel like every job I've ever had, I've had that belief system. But it's not necessarily spoiled. It is, sometimes you have to make choices about what you do, and there have been times where it's harder because often these jobs don't pay as much, or they're certainly not as available. It's not like recruiters, as many recruiters come for these kind of jobs, but the rewards are, even financial rewards aside, the ability to act on something you believe in is such a gift.
Yeah. As someone who is very mission driven
Absolutely.
and passion oriented, what you're saying very much resonates with me. You do share a little bit about, or talk about, democratizing organic. You just say, what does that mean? Many of our students, and according to a recent survey, actually 36% of our students experience food insecurity within a short period of time, and may live in areas where there are food deserts.
Sure.
And other types of other terms that we know encompass kind of not only the access but the quality of food that you're able to consider consuming. Yeah. So what does that term mean?
Sure.
Can you share a little bit more?
So the way most of our food system works in the United States is that people who are wealthy and healthy have lots of access to healthy food. And I don't want those people not to have access, but I certainly don't want them to be the only people who have access to healthy food.
Sure.
And so one of the things that we really challenge ourselves is, how do we make sure we can make our products available to everybody, not just by lower prices, but by distribution, making sure it's distributed more widely, and that there's information to both make them aware of what makes food healthier, but also they understand how to use it. And so, there's a lot of different ways that's happened. So Honest Tea, I mentioned, was discontinued, but Honest Kids is still part of CocaCola. That was our juice drink. And what's really exciting about Honest Kids is it is now democratized as a drink, and it is carried in McDonald's and Wendy's and Subway and Chick-fil-A, and it's at a price point that is line priced. It's not more expensive because it's organic. And so what it does is, it means Honest Kids is often the first organic product millions of Americans get to taste.
Wow.
And then, because Honest Kids is much lower calorie, Honest Kids is a 35-calorie juice box. It went into McDonald's replacing an 80-calorie juice box, and we sold over 200 million units. So just getting Honest Kids into McDonald's helped remove over 1 billion calories from the American diet. And so that's a positive step. Now, of course, it'd be nicer if there were healthier alternatives to McDonald's at scale, so we're not there yet, but it's a starting point.
Absolutely.
And so what we want to do with Eat the Change is get our products to market, get them to scale, and find ways to widen distribution and lower the prices. And it happens over time. It certainly doesn't happen in the first few years, but over time, we already have some ideas about how to take our tea and make it in a more price-accessible package, and to spread it. And then this grants program that Maddie mentioned, that Julie and I have done, is Eat the Change Impact. And what we do there is help communities around the country gain access to plant-based foods and understand how to incorporate them into their diet. Because there's a myth out there that plant-based or food is more expensive. It doesn't have to be at all, but it's often the case that people don't know how to prepare these foods the same way. And so helping communities reconnect to a diet that's better for them, better for the planet.
So, and that, I think, segues into a question that I had, and I just want to kind of bring us so that I understand.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of what you just said is that what you mean by planet-friendly foods?
Yeah.
In terms of what kind of democratizing and
Yeah.
other things? Or
Sure.
talk a little bit more, because it sounds,
Yeah.
you also hit on Eat the Change.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to be very specific about
Okay.
planet-friendly
Okay.
foods, and some of our,
Sure.
we're testing some of those right now.
Yes.
And then, about Eat the Change.
Right. So with Eat the Change, we have 5 planet-based commitments.
Okay.
And so I'll explain how they each sort of come to life. So the first one is everything is plant-based, meaning there's no animal products. Animal products consume much more water, much more energy, and much more animals. So we stay away from anything with animal ingredients. Everything's organic, going back to what I said about avoiding chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers. We also look at food waste. We look for products where we can use all of the crop. And so these carrots are a great example. These are carrot snacks, but they use every part of the carrot. Not the greens, but there's no, the smallest part of the carrot or the largest part of the carrot is used. We also have a mushroom jerky that uses not just the mushrooms you might find in the store, but the stems or the bruised mushrooms or the oversized, the undersized. So many mushrooms don't make it to market. And we take all of them for our mushroom jerky.
Okay.
So that's around food waste. The other thing we look at is water waste. And it turns out that carrots, whereas a pound of almonds require 1,900 gallons of water to make a pound of almonds, it only takes 20 gallons of water to make a pound of carrots and 40 gallons of water to make a pound of mushrooms. So we're looking for crops that are water and energy efficient. And then the last piece that we always look at is that accessibility. How do we make sure these are available for all people over time?
Wow. So 5.
That's the way we talk about planet-friendly food.
That is amazing. That's wow. I want to transition to the audience in a few minutes, but I have a couple more questions. When you look at the marketing campaign for Just Iced Tea, right, different from the one you ran for Honest Tea, you talked about this a little bit. What are some other differences?
Yeah, a lot of the marketing is going to be very similar. So sampling, and we're delighted that my colleague Laura was able to be here and give out samples. We want people to taste it and understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
The thing about food is, I can describe it to you in a lot of words, or you can taste it in a sip, and you get it right away.
Very true.
So that's one thing. But one thing we're doing at Eat the Change, and this we'll be announcing later this week, is we have a campaign called the Incredible Planet Challenge. It's an focus on Edible Planet Challenge. And for the first 21, because next month is Earth Month, and the first 21 days of the month, every day there'll be a challenge people can take on to move towards a more planet-friendly diet. So on the first day, I think it's April 1st, we're encouraging people to try plant-based dairy. So if you have coffee or if you have cereal, try plant-based dairy. Then the next day, there's another suggestion, and we have a plant-based taco night, a plant-based pizza night. So all these different ways to incorporate more planet-friendly foods into your diet. And this is, of course, our name is on the campaign, but we really are partnering with lots of other brands because we want to encourage the behavior change for that.
Okay. So, and behavior change, and I think I heard you also the owner of 13 restaurants.
Yes.
So that's you shaking your head. And there's burgers on the menu.
Yeah. So it's called Plant
okay,
Burger.
okay.
It's PLNT Burger, which could be Plant or Planet Burger,
nice.
or Plenty Burger.
Okay.
And everything is plant-based. So it's burgers. They're delicious burgers. And I don't want to suggest that Plant Burger it's not a health food chain. It's burgers and fries and shakes, but they're delicious and they're all plant-based. And there are 3 in Maryland, 3 in DC, 2 in Virginia, and then we have 2 in New York and 2 up in Boston, and a few in Pennsylvania as well. So up and down the East Coast, really fun. And a lot of the same co-founders, Julie and my co-founder Spike Mendelson as well.
You mentioned something a little earlier in reference to a response, and you said it was a great start. It might have been the billion calories. We're not there yet. There was a place where you kind of and others kind of want to see us, which I totally get.
Yeah.
Is it realistic, or how realistic is it to ask businesses to hold themselves accountable for workers, fair pay and well-being? Do we need to somehow change the system? Is it incentivizing? Is it
It's all about what consumers
that?
demand, right? So consumers have the right to ask and expect people to be treated better, and they can express that. And what I've found is the stores, the restaurants do listen.
Right.
I mean, frankly, the reason McDonald's brought on Honest Kids was because they knew parents wanted some healthier option besides soda for their kids, and organic was appealing, and the lower calorie was appealing. And so the more consumers demand it, the more these companies and restaurants and grocery stores will respond. But consumers can't just demand it. They have to then buy it. They have to speak with their dollars as well. But those are absolutely reasonable expectations. And You know, it was really interesting. I read an interview with one of the CEOs of one of the largest restaurant chains. I won't mention the name, but he talked about, he says, you know, our job isn't to shape what consumers want, it's just to give them what they want. And I disagree. I believe it is the responsibility of the company to try to direct. Now that, you know, you can't dictate everything because you could lose all your customers, but the more you can encourage and nudge people towards healthier foods, the better, you know, for them, and over the long term, the better for your business.
Yeah. And the democratizing food component of that, I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of if you never have access,
Yeah.
you know, having grown up in a certain kind of, you know, just atmosphere, you know, I didn't have access to healthy foods.
Right.
So individuals, groups, organizations who are helping to democratize that and help me, you know, have access to it, they are in a way shaping, right?
Yeah.
They're informing me. I get to make an informed decision. But if I never had access to it, then I'm really just, you know, that's,
Yeah.
you know.
But it also means, you know, we also have to make it delicious, because if you finally get access,
I'll never have it again.
Yeah, exactly. You taste it and think, well, that wasn't any good. So we have to really work on that, and that's something that, you know, has always been in development. But just the same with plant burger, because I think a lot of people will have an existing bias against trying a plant-based burger, just because we have so much built in our culture around animal-based meat, that we kind of have to make it extra delicious to make sure that the people come back.
Very interesting. Very, well, I know I want to make sure that we get to audience members. I could ask you questions all day long. We don't have all day, and definitely want to engage our audience members. Who has the first question?
Just stand up, please. I got you.
Early in your presentation, you had talked about in the supply chain returning money back to the workers.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's really important because it's very easy to, companies talk about when we give money back, it goes to the owner of the tea garden. And then the owner decides how they want to spend it. But that, of course, could be very much not what the community values. And I'll give you the example. So the way fair trade is structured, we pay money, but it doesn't go to the owner of the tea garden. It goes to a council that is monitored and enforced by the certifier, fair trade. And then the workers vote on how the money is spent. And this is so important for so many reasons. So first of all, it gives not just the workers a say in their future, it especially gives women a say in their future, because often in these communities, women don't have their own economic means. And so giving them a pool of money to invest in. But the other thing is really often humbling is it's very easy for us in Maryland to say, oh, we'd love to, like, for example, when I was at this in Mozambique, only half of this community had shoes, children and adults. And I thought, well, we should be getting shoes. But when we asked them what they wanted to spend money on, I was just awestruck when they said they wanted to spend money on a hearse, on a vehicle to take dead people out of the community. Wow. And I thought, wow. Well, what happens is no one has cars here, and so when somebody dies, and let somebody die with dignity, that becomes very expensive to hire a car from outside of the village and bring someone to a burial. So it was really striking that this is what they. I'll give you another example. In India, we worked with the community in northern India, and we funded an eye care project. This community of 6,000 people had never had access to eye care. Wow. We brought in doctors from outside that they were the ones who supported this. I mean, it was our money, but they were the ones organizing it. And 6,000 villagers got eye care that helped. For some, it meant literacy. For others, it meant being able to do their job. And others, it meant treating cataracts that were undiagnosed. But if we had tried to bring eye care to Mozambique, where 47% of children never go to school, they would have said, that doesn't make sense for us right now. So you really have to, our job, of course, we try to understand the community, but the best understanding we can have is that we aren't the ones who should be making that decision.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Consistently asking what the need is.
Yeah,
really so learning about the lived experience so they can best provide a pathway that's aligned with the values. I saw other hands. We have. All right, we have a student. All right.
Hello, how are you? My name is Christopher. I have a question about when Coca-Cola started to discontinue Honest Tea.
Yes.
Basically, I feel like most companies start to fail at that point. But how was Honest Tea different in terms of how was it the relationship with the suppliers? Why were they so willing to come back and just help Honest Tea come back up?
So for the suppliers, it was a huge setback when they heard that Honest Tea was being discontinued, for sure. But they had invested in the supply chain, and personally, I had lobbied. I've been to, especially India, trying to convince them that organic was important and fair trade was important, and we wanted to set up that supply chain. So once for many, Coca-Cola was their largest customer. And so for them to lose their largest customer could have had devastating economic impact on them. I mean, loss of income, and not just loss of income, loss of a value-added income. So tea is a commodity. It sells at auctions at a certain price. But when you add organic and fair trade, you increase the price, and you give that community a cushion against being just a commodity. It's always hard to be a commodity because you don't have any ability to assure your stability. And so for these communities, they were growing tea. They wanted to keep doing what they had been investing in. Unfortunately, now even though I said we're already at where Honest Tea was in year 8, we're not yet where Honest Tea was in year 20. So we still have a lot of growth to make happen to be able to keep these folks earning the kind of money or at least to grow the demand. That's really our goal.
Thank you.
What can we do? You talked about getting into different markets and being accessible. What can we do to get you into places like Giant, Safeway, and Costco?
Yes.
Can we start letter writing campaigns,
Absolutely.
calling campaigns?
Yeah. Thank
Seriously.
you. No, I greatly appreciate that. So, first of all, we are in Giant. We are in the natural aisle of Giant, but love to expand. But the stores really do pay attention to these requests. I'm not just saying that. It really is. It matters to them. They want to be relevant for their customers, and so when you can buy these products and express interest in it and share it with people, it helps spread it. It really does. I mean, we don't have the kind of marketing budget that the big companies have. You see the Super Bowl ads and all the other things. That's not how we do it. I mean, you met our marketing on the way in. So we rely on people spreading. It's word of mouth that counts so much, and it counts in spreading it to consumers, but it also counts in spreading it to stores. We are, it sounds like we will be expanding to some of those chains you mentioned over the coming months, but we work on it every day. And it's always interesting because we have just the most amazing team. Some of the folks on our team I've been literally working with for 25 years. So wow. Most of our team, in fact, more than half of our employees were former Honest Tea employees. So they also came back. But we all get so excited about the impact that we can have. And so, we celebrate the revenue, the dollar growth, but we also, celebrate the expansion of the mission and the impact.
That's great. So as the microphone gets to the next person, it just kind of segues into so how important is it to have a well-informed consumer, and is that the responsibility of the business, and or should it be?
We value the consumer so much. I mean, so the phrase "eat the change" really, it's a call to action, right? It is. This is not like we don't call our brand daisies. I mean, we were saying eat the change. It's action we want. It's also about empowerment. We want to empower people with this knowledge and information. So we certainly take it, and as I said, this incredible Planet Challenge. We're doing what we can to educate the consumer, but of course, it's not only. We can't be the only ones doing that. Yeah. So it is great when schools and governments can raise awareness about healthy options. It's great when schools and governments and nonprofits can help make people aware of the externalities, the negative aspects of other things they're eating. But ultimately, really, it's all of our job to try to raise that awareness. And that said, we also we have to have fun. We can't just be a brand that is trying to say eat your broccoli and be healthy. We've got to make sure people feel it's accessible. I mean, even the name, Just Iced Tea, you can have fun. Oh, Just, that's fun. You know, like, we've got to make sure this is a fun experience. One of the things people ask, so with Honest Tea, we had cat messages underneath, and we've just finished our first production run with where we have our Eat the Change logo on the cap and fun quotes underneath too. And we've got to make it a whole experience.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. I know I saw other hands, and yes.
Hi, my name is Afi. I'm vegan,
Oh,
and I
nice.
thank you so much for all the effort.
Thank you.
My question is about plain burger. I feel like it tastes like meat. Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm eating meat, even
Yeah.
though I'm running away from meat.
Yeah.
So is there any way you can make it a little bit different, because it's like I'm not vegan.
That's a good question, and it's a fair tension. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
interesting.
on the one hand, like, that's great praise because we're trying to get the meat eaters to come
Right,
over.
right.
On the other hand, I want to make sure there's something that you can enjoy as well. We have, we're always working on the menu. We did recently add some products like it's called actual veggies. So it is much more like a veggie burger that doesn't taste like meat.
Okay.
But ultimately, to really get to scale, we've got to be able to market this product to more than the 3% of the population that's vegan or vegetarian. And so we want, that's part of democratizing too, right?
Right.
If we only are selling to vegans, then we're not really moving the needle. We want everybody to have access to this and to be able to enjoy it. So there's a balance there, but I take your challenge on, but I also take a little bit of a compliment from your question too.
I appreciate that. It also kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier in terms of kind of animal-based products and how they've just been so infused and
Yeah.
inculcated. I think I'll use an I statement into my life, because I thought the goal is to have something that is plant-based that tastes like a burger. Like, that's the goal, because people are meat eaters, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that question, and it's interesting to see the the
That
kind
tension.
of positive
Yeah.
friction with that. Other questions? Yeah.
So my question is, since you worked on Honest Tea, and you're expanding with other products you're developing, do you develop it on the side as well, or probably after you're finished with Honest Tea, do you work on that and then maybe another side project just so you can
Yeah.
keep in business, something like that?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll explain a little bit. So when we were doing Honest Tea, we were all in on tea.
Yeah.
And then what happened was we got asked by a chain of stores to make some lemonade for them. We're like, oh, we can make lemonade. That was kind of interesting. And then we have 3 sons, and our second son was taking the lemonade to school in his lunchbox. He was very proud to be able to show. But then he would always come. He was a little guy, and he was only drinking about a third of it. I thought, well, that's too much. We're wasting all this product. So that actually led to the creation of Honest Kids. I said, well, what if we made a drink pouch that had so much less sugar? So that was kind of how that evolved. With Eat the Change, we weren't in the tea business at all. I had left tea. I was on to the next thing. And so I was thinking about, how do we make a snack that is tasty and nutrient dense? And that led to the mushroom jerky. And then I thought about, well, how do we make a snack that could go in the lunchbox? Because Honest Kids was so successful. How do we make a snack for kids? And so the first thought we had was, could we take carrots and make them into carrot chips, just like potato chips, but carrot chips? And we couldn't get the right crispness. We also were wasting a lot of the carrot, because you can't use the whole bottom third of the carrot. And then one of our suppliers sent us the wrong cut of carrots. They sent us those little coins. And my co-founder Spike said, I can't make any chips with this. But he tried something else. He soaked them in juice, and then he dried them out, and then they took on that chewy taste. And we thought, well, wait a minute, this could be a really good replacement for fruit chews, which of course really aren't fruit at all. And so we were doing those things and very happily focused on snacks when we got the news about CocaCola and Honest Tea. And we had not at all aspired to be back in the tea business. And I never would have wanted to compete against Honest Tea. One of my sort of principles is when you're an entrepreneur, you've got to go to spaces that are not occupied. I can't go against all the big competitors. But with Honest Tea leaving, we said, well, that's a great business opportunity. Then we said, well, wait a minute, is it a planet-friendly food? And what we realized about tea is, it's an incredibly planet-friendly food. So tea bushes grow, they're evergreen bushes. They grow And for about 9 months of the year, in certain climates, they just grow new leaves. And so you pick the leaves, and then you come back in 2 weeks, you pick the leaves again. There's no harvest, there's no plowing, there's no irrigation. Right. It is just picking leaves off bushes and picking them again and again. So it's an incredibly environmentally friendly plant. So for us, this fit in the charter 100%. And of course, the one thing is, I didn't mention this. I talked about planet-based commitments. The one thing I left out is biodiversity. So we all know that a planet with more biodiversity is a healthier planet. It's more resilient. It'll respond better. It won't be. And so we looked at our food system, and we realized there were 6 crops that are responsible for 57% of all agricultural production. And that's corn, soy, wheat, potatoes, rice, and sugarcane. And then we said, with Eat the Change, we're not going to use any of those ingredients. And so when we looked at tea, and we realized, well, Honest Tea used sugarcane. We said, well, are we going to uphold that commitment? We said, well, if we're serious about it, we have to. So we moved away from sugarcane, and we use only organic agave or organic honey as our sweeteners. Yeah.
Another alignment of values, ethics, and business.
Yeah, and that was a choice there, because sugarcane's cheaper, but we felt like, it's part of our principle, and we're going to stick to it.
Wow. Other, up top, I know we have.
Hi, my name is Caleb Salazar. You kind of touched on this a little bit earlier when talking about how to get really healthy foods into low-income places or places that are kind of considered food deserts. And you were talking about your initiatives and bringing the product to McDonald's. I was wondering if there are any other efforts that Eat the Change is doing to kind of help with that, or if there's anything you guys are doing forward to either change people's perception of healthy foods or just bringing healthier things to lower income places.
Sure. And I'll mention, by the way, because I am involved with Beyond Meat, that Beyond Meat now is working with McDonald's in Europe, and there we sell it's called the McPlant Burger, which we sell in a lot of countries in Europe. We also have launched a line of chicken nuggets in McDonald's in Germany, plant-based. Right. So of course, no chicken really. So those are efforts. Well, obviously, we hope that expands to more restaurants around the world. With Eat the Change, it's still so early, so we have so much open areas to go to. So yes, getting into a lot of the grocery chains that were mentioned is part of what we're doing. We're also looking at how to bring a smaller package that can be priced less. Glass is a beautiful package, but it's also an expensive package. Especially, it's gone up. The price of glass now is twice as expensive as it was when I was launching Honest Tea. Wow. So just to give you a feeling for, so we're looking at other package, environmentally friendly package alternatives to make the price lower and to help expand distribution.
Thank you. We have time for maybe one more question, I think, before maybe two. Depends.
I have one question. A lot of your work, I'm going by the tagline of Eat the Change. My question is, in your efforts, what are some of the top factors you have seen that open people up to accept the change? Is it more information, or just providing more information, probably going why plant-based products are good may not be enough. So I'm just curious, in your effort, which factors you would list as top 3 or 4 that open people up to accept the change? Yeah.
Well, one of the big barriers is cultural, right? People are just used to what they're used to. And thinking about, animal products, we all grew up on, not all, I think almost all of us grew up on these, and this was part of whether it's a family tradition or a family ritual. It was what was most accessible, and today it's often what is very, certainly what's marketed and what's affordable. And so the biggest and most effective way we have found to change habits is information. And of course, finding people that are open to it. The information about the impact is real. And of course, we know about what's going on with climate change. What people often make the mistake, they understand that climate change is going to impact what they eat. But they don't understand the reverse. They don't understand that what they eat impacts climate change. So when you look at greenhouse gases, animal products are a huge driver of that, double digit. So it depends on who you ask. It could be anywhere between 20 to 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions comes from our food system, and the primary driver are animal products. And so, how is that framed? How is that presented to them? And then, how much are people willing to eat the change? How much are they willing to make a choice? And so part of that comes back to taste. So if it tastes great, it makes it easier. If they understand the context, it makes it easier. If it's priced accessibly, it makes it easier. If the brand is fun and friendly, it makes it easier. So all of these things kind of have to combine. And we talk about this as a movement, and it's a long journey. This is I'm a marathoner, I'm not a sprinter, so that's a good thing. We have to think about this as a long-term journey. We want everyone ultimately to join us, but we'll take whoever we can get at this point.
Well, it's great to hear your passion is absolutely palpable, and your energy is just everywhere. We do have to wrap up this wonderful conversation. I'm so very thankful that you were able to join us and just provide so much insight. Would love to provide you with a few moments to share final thoughts with us.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, and thank you all for listening and everyone who's been tuning in. Just in closing, I'll say a few thoughts. So first of all, I mentioned our trip to Mozambique. We went just in January, and we've just put up on YouTube a video. So if you type in just iced tea Mozambique, you can see the most, for me, just beautiful video of our sourcing practices. And you get a sense of what it means in this community, which is, first of all, it's the most remote tea garden I've ever been to. It's the largest organic tea garden in the world. And it's unlike any place I've been to. It was magical. And so to be able to see that will, I think, give you a really a deeper sense of what it means to buy organic. And I think the other thing I will just share is it really is, this is a brand, this is what I'm committed to doing, but each of us, each of you, has the ability every day to make a choice. And while it's wonderful if you want to join some of the folks in the room who are vegan, that's not the only way to do it. It can literally be in a meal to say, okay, well, I am going to try a plant-based dairy, or I'm going to have one meal a day, or even one more meal a week that's plant-based. It's a journey. All of us are on a journey, and it starts wherever you are. You don't have to feel like, I'll never be able to be vegan, so I can't. You start wherever you are, and you take a step, and from there, good things will happen.
Well, I really appreciate that, the journey comment, considering we are at an institution of higher education, and we're all about continuous growth and development, researching, looking at our journey, looking at the journey of others. Seth, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your inspiration. I know that we've all learned so very much today. I know that our students, I know you've learned a lot about being socially responsible entrepreneurship and other, just components of business industry in our world. And we have you to thank for that. So thank you again very much. I'd also like to obviously thank MCTV for being here with this production and making this all come to fruition. And for everyone who is watching, thank you as well. And we will see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.